A violent storm is raging inside a dreamscape.
Mm-hmm.
A spirit is stumbling, running in these dark, frantic circles, driven from the very heart of her own mind. She's being lashed by wind-blown red petals, torn from a field of poppies.
Yeah.
But outside of this chaotic atmospheric storm, in the heavy, oppressive physical world, her actual body lies in absolute agony.
Right.
And she is tethered to that body, to the waking world, but just a single fraying silver cord.
You are listening to a literal nightmare. I mean, what you just described, it isn't a metaphor.
No, not at all.
In the world of Samantha Shannon's The Bone Season, the human mind is a literal physical landscape.
It really is. And today, we're doing a deep dive into what happens when an authoritarian regime figures out how to police that inner landscape.
Exactly. We're exploring a world where clairvoyance is, well, it's a capital crime.
Yeah, our mission today is to dig into this incredibly emotionally resonant, brutal, and surprisingly tender dystopian world.
It's quite a ride.
It really is. So we are dropping into the year 2059.
Right. The setting is the London Citadel.
Which is the heart of the Republic of Scion. Scion is this totalitarian regime that has controlled Europe for, what, nearly 2 centuries?
Yeah, right around 200 years.
And its entire foundation, its whole reason for being, is built on a singular goal: hunting and eradicating unnaturals. Basically anyone who is clairvoyant.
And, you know, within this suffocating regime, we meet our protagonist, 19-year-old Paige Mahoney.
Right.
And Paige lives this extreme dual existence. Like, to her father, who actually works for the Scion government, ironically, she's just this unremarkable girl who works at an oxygen bar.
It's keeping her head down.
Exactly. But in reality, she operates deep in the criminal underworld of the Seven Dial Syndicate. She is the Molisher, the second in command to a notorious crime boss named Jackson Hall.
Right, the white binder. But Paige isn't just your run-of-the-mill clairvoyant. She is what's known as a dream walker.
Which is incredibly rare.
Yeah, and I think we really need to clarify what that actually means because, you know, people hear the word clairvoyant and they immediately picture, like, someone reading minds.
Oh, totally. Holding a crystal ball, trying to guess your grandmother's name.
Exactly. But this is completely different.
Far from it. I mean, mind reading implies this clean, easy transfer of information. What Paige experiences is so much more visceral than that.
Yeah.
She is highly sensitive to the ether, which in this world is the spiritual realm that overlays our physical one.
It's like, imagine having to walk through a crowded, brightly lit room where you can hear every single person's heartbeat echoing like a drum.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Right. But to survive, you just have to pretend you're completely deaf.
Yeah, you can't react at all.
She is essentially a human mind radar. Her spirit can physically leave her body, traveling along that silver cord, and walk through the dreamscapes of others.
The inner mental worlds.
Yeah, she feels the spiritual weight of the entire city for miles around her.
And that constant sensory overload is exactly what she deals with every single day. I mean, she commits high treason just by drawing a breath.
Just by existing.
Right. And the turning point, the moment that shatters this incredibly fragile double life, happens on the London Underground.
Oh man, this scene.
Yeah. Paige is exhausted. She's been drifting, tracking this mysterious dreamscape for her crime boss, just pushing her abilities to the absolute limit.
She just wants to go home.
Exactly. She gets on the train, and then an automated voice on the intercom makes an announcement.
Right. This pre-recorded voice just echoes through these sterile train cars, announcing the rollout of RDT SenShield.
Which is terrifying.
It really is. It's this new technology that can detect auras. It detects the literal connection between a clairvoyant and the spirit world.
Yeah, and up until now, people like Paige could at least blend in with normal humans during the day.
Right, they could hide in plain sight. But SenShield changes the rules of survival completely.
The daytime streets are no longer safe. The transport systems are completely compromised.
So panic sets in immediately on the train. And in that moment of total vulnerability, an undercover guard spots her.
Yeah, and he grabs her wrist. He knows exactly what she is.
And Paige is terrified.
Mm-hmm.
She knows the penalty for being caught is the gallows.
Right.
And in this desperate, instinctual surge of terror, her spirit just violently lashes out.
And let's pause on that, because she doesn't just punch him.
No.
She accidentally kills him.
Wait, yeah, let's unpack that. How does a spirit actually kill a physical person in this universe?
Well, it comes down to the physics of clairvoyance that Shannon built into the world. When an animal is cornered, you have that physical fight or flight response, right?
Yeah, adrenaline spikes, heart rate goes up.
Exactly. But for a dreamwalker, That internal adrenaline is projected outward into the ether.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Her spirit didn't throw a physical punch. It forcefully expanded under sheer panic, and it basically shattered the delicate architecture of the guard's mind through atmospheric pressure.
So the mind breaks, the body just follows.
Exactly.
The consequences of that are immediate. But strangely, Paige isn't executed.
No, she's not.
Instead, she's captured, drugged, and transported completely out of London to a place that officially does not exist.
Oxford.
Yeah, a lost city. It's been completely wiped from Scion's maps, and it's now known as the penal colony Sheol I.
But here's the thing. Putting people in a secret camp isn't enough to sustain a 200-year empire.
Right, there has to be a larger purpose.
There is. What is Scion actually getting out of this? That is where we hit the true nightmare of Shield R. Paige learns about something called the Bone Season.
The title drop.
Yes. Every decade, a harvest of human prisoners is brought to this lost city. And they aren't there to serve the human government.
No, they are given to the Rephaim,
Right.
which are these immortal, terrifying humanoid beings from the netherworld. They're from another dimension entirely.
And they are the ones actually secretly pulling the strings of the human republic.
Yeah, they feed off the spiritual energy of human clairvoyance to sustain themselves
Yeah.
and to fight their own ancient enemies.
Scion isn't just a dictatorship, you see.
It's a farm.
Yes, it's a farm, and the human captives are the crop.
That is just chilling. So Paige, along with these other captives, is assigned to a Refate keeper. She essentially becomes property. She is number 40.
Yeah, they are told they must train, they have to prove their worth, or they will be killed. Or worse, cast out to be eaten by these roaming creatures called Emim.
So survival is forcing her into this impossible bargain, and she gets assigned to the warden.
Arcturus Meserthum.
Right. He is the blood consort to Nishira Sargus, who is the incredibly cruel ruler of the Rifa.
And he is massive, he is imposing, he has these eyes that burn with golden light.
Paige completely expects him to be a monster. She is bracing for just the absolute worst torture.
But to understand why Paige's dynamic with Warden ends up subverting all of our expectations, we really have to look back at her life in London.
Yeah, that illusion of the benevolent mentor.
Exactly. Paige thought she had a home. She thought she had a chosen family with Jackson Hall and his crime syndicate.
She felt like she belonged there. But I want to back up a second because we should ask ourselves, why was she so loyal to this crime boss in the first place?
Well, when you are a hunted teenager, Sanctuary looks a lot like whoever is willing to hide you.
Right, he was offering safety, or at least the illusion of it.
But through a series of flashbacks, we see the stark reality of that sanctuary. Jackson didn't see Paige as a daughter or even a friend.
No, he saw her as a commodity. A rare, priceless gift wrapped in human packaging.
Exactly. He manipulated her, pushed her to the bunk of death, used her rare gift for his own gain, and deliberately kept her isolated.
And I really want you, listening right now, to reflect on that for a second. What happens to your inner life when the people you trust the most only value you for what you can produce or what you can destroy?
It creates this profound, deep loneliness. You stop being a person and you become an instrument.
Yeah, and Paige carries that heavy trauma straight into the penal colony. She assumes Warden will view her exactly the same way, as a tool.
A weapon to be sharpened.
Right. But the relationship actually shifts from captor and captive into something so profoundly intimate.
It really does, and that's because of Warden's specific power. He is a neuromancer.
Meaning, he can make people dream their own memories.
Yeah, he can literally see into the absolute deepest parts of their past.
So he witnesses Paige's most visceral, buried trauma. When she was a child, she survived the Imbolc massacre in Dublin.
Right, where government forces basically murdered clairvoyants in the streets.
It was a slaughter, and Paige only narrowly escaped. She was hiding while the people she loved were killed all around her.
And Warden sees all of this. He sees the blood on her boots. He hears the small, broken cries of a lost child hiding in the dark.
That level of exposure is so terrifying, especially for someone who has spent her entire life hiding her true self.
Oh, absolutely. But here is where the mechanics of the world do something totally fascinating. After Paige suffers a severe physical injury in Oxford, their spirits become inexplicably bound together in the ether.
Yeah, it manifests as this literal golden cord connecting her spirit to his.
And the golden cord is such a powerful thematic image. It's an ethereal tether essentially forced upon them, linking a human captive to her immortal master.
But the key is that Warden doesn't use this connection against her. He doesn't exploit her trauma the way Jackson would have.
Not at all. He honors it.
He gives this really poignant analogy to explain their connection. He says that if Paige's mind is a glass float bobbing in the sea, his mind is flooded with water. He exists within the spirit world, but he also carries it within him.
Yeah.
And because they are tethered, he brings her into his own ancient dreamscape. He actually lets her see him.
He makes himself vulnerable to her. By showing her his dreamscape, he shows her this amaranth flower,
Right.
which is a flower that only grows in his home dimension. But in this penal colony, it is a strictly forbidden symbol of rebellion against Nashira.
So Warden, the blood consort to the tyrant herself, is secretly plotting against his own kind.
Yeah, to end the subjugation of humans.
And sharing that secret just completely changes the entire architecture of their relationship.
Oh, totally. They realize they are both prisoners to this brutal system, just in different ways.
Shared trauma really can forge the most unexpected alliances.
It's true. But we also have to remember, this connection happens against the backdrop of an incredibly bleak reality.
Yeah, the escalating tensions in Sheol the First.
The visceral day-to-day life of the colony is designed specifically to strip away humanity. The human prisoners, the red jackets and pink jackets, are essentially starved.
Yeah, they survive on what they call skilly and toke, watery oatmeal and stale bread.
And they freeze in the damp Oxford winters. But, the physical deprivation is really only one layer of the control mechanism here.
Right, the true horror of this place is spiritual.
Exactly. And the scene in the rookery perfectly illustrates this.
The rookery is the cramped quarters where all the human prisoners live.
Right. And there's a character named Liz. She is a cartomancer, meaning she uses tarot cards to connect to the spirit world.
Okay.
And she's been in this horrible colony for 10 years, just barely enduring. And then a traitor among the humans, a woman named Kath, who is working for the cruelest of the Rephaim guards, attacks her.
Yeah, Kath takes Lys's beloved worn tarot cards and she throws them straight into a roaring fire.
And the reaction from Liz isn't just grief over a sentimental possession. It is literal, physical agony.
She collapses.
Yeah, her spirit begins to actually die.
Wait, I need to emphasize this for everyone listening. Kath throws some worn-out tarot cards into a fire. I mean, I get that it's mean, it's cruel bullying, but why does this cause physical agony? They're just pieces of paper.
Right, that's exactly what a normal person would think. But in this universe, those cards are a numen.
A numen. Let's explain that.
Think of the ether, the spirit world, as this raging, chaotic river. If you just jump in, the sensory overload will sweep you away. You'll drown in it.
Right.
So a numen is the tether. It is a physical anchor driven into the riverbank that allows a clairvoyant to safely wade into the water and channel their power.
Oh.
So when Kath burns those cards, she isn't destroying paper. She is cutting Lys's tether while Lys is still standing in the deep water.
Oh, man, that completely changes the context. For Lys, who has been trapped in this hell for a decade, those cards were her only anchor to the spirit world. Watching them burn physically severs her connection to the ether.
Yeah.
You literally see her aura fading away. She completely loses the will to live.
It is such a devastating, chilling representation of how totalitarian regimes actually operate.
Yeah, they don't just break bodies with forced labor, they systematically destroy the inner light, the mechanisms people use to connect with themselves and their culture.
Exactly. Lys's spiritual death is a direct result of the system pitting the oppressed against each other.
And that sets this incredibly dark stage for the climax of the story, the bicentenary.
Yeah, bicentenary is this twisted, opulent celebration. It marks exactly 2 centuries since the first Bone season. 2 centuries of this inquisition against clairvoyance.
Right. High-ranking government officials and emissaries from other science cities are coming to Oxford. It's basically a massive display of immortal power and human subjugation.
And as this horrific party approaches, Warden gives Paige a way out.
He does, because he knows Nashira is planning to claim Paige, to publicly bridle this rare dreamwalker in front of all these emissaries as a show of ultimate dominance.
So Warden offers to smuggle Paige away to the outskirts of the city. He tells her she can escape. She can survive.
And survival at any cost is a deeply human instinct. For her whole life, Paige has been running, hiding, pretending just to survive.
Right, but this is the emotional resolution of her arc. Paige refuses to run.
She chooses to stay.
Yeah.
She tells Warden that if she runs, if she dies out in the wild, the memory of the Dublin massacre dies with her.
Because the man who orchestrated that slaughter in Ireland is alive and well in London.
Exactly. She refuses to leave while she can still be a living, breathing reminder of what the government did. She needs to be the living embodiment of the people Scion tried to erase.
She isn't just surviving anymore, she is actively resisting.
And the way she seals this choice is stunning. In this moment of total vulnerability and defiance, she reaches out and touches Warden's cheek.
It is this quiet, incredibly intimate physical connection, her claiming her agency.
Yeah, she's choosing her alliance, tethering herself to a rebellion instead of running back to the shadows. Their physical touch mirrors that golden cord in the ether.
It's beautiful. But of course, a story like this doesn't let its characters rest on their quiet moments of resolution for long.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Just as the tension of the bicentenary reaches its absolute peak with Paige preparing to face Nashira, the narrative throws a massive wrench into everything.
Yeah, this final image is just chaotic.
The windows of the stronghold suddenly shatter. And striding right into this ancient, terrifying citadel of immortal beings is Jackson Hall.
The White Biner himself.
The crime lord who treated Paige like a commodity. He has somehow found the lost city. He walks right into the den of the monsters, pulling the government's strings, and he demands his Dreamwalker back.
It just completely upends the board. Jackson represents Paige's past, her trauma of being used as machinery, but he was also her old sanctuary.
While Warden represents her present, her golden cord, and this terrifying new rebellion.
She is caught right between a human crime lord who views her as property and an immortal rebel to whom her soul is tethered.
It is quite the cliffhanger.
It really is.
And as we bring the pacing down a bit here, it leaves us reflecting on what it really means to be tethered. To a person, to a regime, or even to your own history.
Yeah.
Paige is tethered by a silver cord to her own fragile body and by a golden cord to someone who truly knows her deepest grief.
And she chose the harder path, to keep her internal anchor intact.
It makes you think about the tethers in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
When the world outside demands that you hide exactly who you are just to survive, what happens to the parts of yourself you have to bury?
Do they stay safe in the dark or do they suffocate?
Exactly. And if your own mind is the only safe place left, what do you do when someone else holds the key?